Uh, Welcome, Madhusudhan. This is a series of webinar for Ecoversities. Ecoversity Alliance is a global community reimagining education to nurture human and ecological well-being. Um, it has fostered diverse knowledge systems, intercultural dialogue, and radical pedagogy supporting communities and reclaiming their own learning through gatherings, exchanges, and experimentation like this. Ecoversities cultivates an ecology of knowledge, learning from within and beyond diversity to regenerate culture and ecology. So part of Ecoversities is Sacredversities. From mainstream to many streams, Sacredversity seeks to reclaim the sacred in learning, culture, and life, reorganizing the modern materialism. Um, Excuse me, sorry, there's some background. Just give me a moment.
Sorry, I'm here. I'm just turning off my video.
Okay, that's okay. That's okay.
You're on mute, Lakshmi. You're on mute.
Okay.
Achha, sorry, before we go, is there any much background noise from my side? I can close the window if it's too
Not
much.
really.
No, please don't suffocate. There is no noise.
Achha, okay.
Yeah, there's no noise. Yeah, I was saying this webinar is a part of people who are engaged with the sacred. So Sacredversities is part of Ecoversities, which seeks to reclaim sacred and learning culture and life, like I was saying. So we are recognizing that the modern materialism has severed our connection to the unseen, and it offers space for those who hear the call of the sacred, the whispers of the myth, the dreams, the ancestral wisdom, our body's intuition, silence, symbol, and the unseen currents that weave us into the greater mysteries of existence.
That's beautiful.
Yeah, so this is an invitation to reimagine education as an initiatory path, where learning is an embodied sacred experience that restores our relationship within life's life's mysteries. Um, Through practice like rituals, storytelling, like you do, embodied presence, and bhakti, Sacredversities nurture spaces where the soul's longing is honored. It's a moment of re-enchantment, bridging the seen and the unseen, the rational and the intuitive, fostering an education of wholeness where knowledge is woven. This is Sacredversities. We're going to be doing a series of webinars with people who are engaged in the sacred like you. So this particular call is about the Pilgrimversities that you have initiated, and you've been on a few pilgrimages yourself, and you've documented some others. Would you like to introduce yourself and share, just who you are and what is Pilgrimversity?
Sure. Thank you. Thank you, Lakshmi, and thank you so much for inviting me for this conversation. And I think each conversation becomes a remembrance, a zikr, or a simran, to reconnect with your own heart. And for me, it's special because I loved the introduction of Ecoversity, what you shared, and would love to have a copy also. In fact, it's so beautifully articulated to really to listen to the call of the soul and to believe in the unseen and to connect with our ancestors and with the spirit, really. And I think over time we have started being disconnected. Our relationship, as you said, has been severed with self, with society and with the soul and nature, whatever you can call that. And so for me, my name is Madhusudhan, and I like to explore life through stories. I believe stories have within themselves the potential to connect us with our own self, with each other, and with the divine or nature. And through stories, we're able to explore the unseen, to feel the unseen, to feel the spirit, because stories are it's such a wide field, and every life has a story. And no matter what, we're constantly telling stories to ourselves, to each other. We cannot escape stories. And once we are able to connect with that field, we are able to connect with a larger field of oneness. And so for me, my inquiry has been to connect with life through stories. That's what I do, be it through a little bit of filmmaking, a little bit of storytelling, be it with pilgrimages or retreats or media for social change, like I've done something in the past, or so those, or just life in general. I believe just being a human being, a conscious human being, not all the time, but at least trying to be that. That itself is, I think, has been my journey. Pilgrimversity is definitely inspired by the Ecoversities network and with the co-pilgrims from this network. And the idea was how to see life as a pilgrimage itself. And yes, and what we're trying to do is to name few pilgrimages, few pilgrims that inspire us, that helps us to reconnect, but also to really see life as a sacred pilgrim, as a sacred pilgrimage. And that has, so it's more of an inquiry rather than as an answer, or so it's more of a repository of stories, of pilgrimages, of pilgrims, and just a lot of questions about who we are, where we are going, and yeah, how do we connect with ourselves.
Yeah, what I'm hearing is you are a storyteller and a pilgrim, and through stories, you and everything that you engage in, you connect with the sacred. Would
Yes,
that be, yeah, okay to
absolutely.
say?
Yes, yes,
Yeah.
yes, absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah, you also briefly mentioned how Pilgrimversity is inspired by Ecoversity. Can you share a little bit about how it emerged for you and what personal experiences shaped that?
Definitely. Let's see. So for me, my first experience with, I think, ecoversity and multiversity, or noversity, or whatever you tend to call, I think it has been in one of the LSUCs. I think where I saw this whole group of people and thousands of people coming together, and yet there was this connection in the chaos, and that the spirit which called them was that the spirit of the soul, and trying to come together, which believed in something else, which believed in that connection, and that a more beautiful world is possible. And everybody doing in their own ways. And in today's time, we could call it crazy because the whole world is going in one direction. And here there's a group of people just stand up and says, and these are not special people. And that was the beauty. Each one of them was so ordinary that it made them extraordinary. And for me, it touched my heart that yes, we don't need big projects or big things. It's just how do we live a life, trusting that the call of the spirit, trusting that the unseen, the sacred, and the relationship which bonds us, the interconnectedness. And I think that's what I saw and I felt over there. Definitely people, I mean, my first introduction was with Manish Bhai, and to see that the kinship and the brotherhood with him, the that love with saying, I'm not going to leave you no matter what. And I think I felt that in that ecoversity in a way which is unspoken. So it's not this the friendship of one-to-one person. It was the friendship of what we call as a noble friendship, the friendship of the heart or of the spirit. Is the affinity, is the deep calling of my heart calls to the deep calling of your heart. So you and me may not be friends, but your heart or the calling of your heart and calling of my heart is so aligned. That's what it makes me feel complete. And I think that's a different quality of friendship. It's not based on the attachment or the person. It's beyond the person, beyond that. And so I would say that. And yeah, and I think it was just the idea of exploration. I think, and that's what I like. It's no answers, it's questions, and that we are exploring it together. to a more beautiful world possible. Yeah. And definitely my participation in many of these small gatherings has shaped me, I think, but mostly the connection with one-to-one, it has been very beautiful and powerful for me.
Yeah, and you're saying the vision for Pilgrimversity sort of emerged
Yes.
from there.
Yes.
Yeah. What about your own personal experiences with the pilgrimages, and how did that shape Pilgrimversity as it is now?
So I would say I can just speak more about the personal experiences. Pilgrimversity is still in a very nascent, in a very young, I mean, it's just the beginning right now. But for me, I think growing up in a small village in Chhattisgarh and then going to a boarding school, and after boarding school, I had the opportunity to go to US and then coming back, staying in the Gandhi Ashram and for 10 years. And then also after coming back from US, I took this, my first, like I would say, the pilgrimage of all over India, where I've met many ashrams and saints and sages and the mystics from North India to South India, stayed with the Aghoris in Varanasi to Shankaracharya in the south, Dalai Lama in the north. And I would just show up and I would happen to meet these people. And I was recording their stories and just asking them what is sin and what is Zen. And the name of my film was called A Little Bit of Sin, A Little Bit of Zen. So culturally, what is sacred for one may not be looked down upon as, in another culture. So how do we see life in totality? So it was just, I was 23 or 24 that time. And just, with a lot of questions, I was roaming around, with just one camera, which was also gifted to me, and going all over India. So I think that was my first so-called pilgrimage. And but after that or before that, I think as a human beings, we all have been taking pilgrimages all our lives, in either be it in our home or be it outside, doesn't really matter. And not just in this lifetime, but many lifetimes. I mean, that's a whole different exploration altogether. But yeah.
Yeah. So often, pilgrimages sound like it's an external journey, like we are
Yes.
traveling and walking somewhere, getting somewhere. But in the material, the things that you've written about pilgrimages and pilgrimversity, there's an emphasis on inner pilgrimage. And I'm wondering what it means in practice.
Yes. So there's a beautiful quote by Hafiz, I believe, that he said, probably Hafiz, we don't know where the quotes come from, but most probably. And he said, I had this deep need to go on a pilgrimage. So I just sat down in one place and went within. And some in the beginning, I used to not connect when I was a restless soul. I believe, no, one finishes, then you need for the another one, and you're always excited from one pilgrimage to another pilgrimage, from one location to another location, and you get kind of this high, right? And then as the years pass by and you go deeper in this, and then you start seeing life itself as sacred. And then you hear about Ramana, who stayed in one cave most of his life. You hear about Sri Aurobindo, who for 25 years didn't even come out of his room, out of his house in Pondicherry, and wrote such beautiful books on, poetry and conscious books on Savitri and life divine and Gita and the Vedas and so much. So I think it's really important. Um, it's not it's not the places, it's the places could be within or outside. It doesn't really matter. And yet we see the importance of going out, like the Narmada pilgrimage or all over India. Our sages had made specifically the temples in different locations so that people would travel. They would go out because when they go out, they meet people, they connect with people. There's a sense of this vulnerability comes out. You're interdependent. So I think there's a need. It's not this or this, it's this and this. So I would say it's हमारे हमें सहज स्वभाव में, whatever comes naturally to you, how do we embrace that, accept that, and then go with the flow? So it's not saying, oh, just I have to sit here. For maybe Ramana, it meant to sit here. For Shankaracharya, it meant to go all over India and share. For Buddha, till the age of 80, he was traveling. He was traveling, going around for meeting people and giving them Dhamma. So it doesn't really matter. So I think we have to be connected with our own self and see what resonates with me. with myself in my own true path, and then answer that. And saying in the same breath, I would also honor that it could also be a very fancy word, in today's time, the pilgrimages or I have started to value so much of, being a good friend or human being or a father or a brother or a friend or a mother, or just being who you are is in a pilgrimages itself. I see my mother being there at home and doing what she does, and yet she goes, does all the external pilgrimages itself. But the way she sees life in its totality as a sacred, like my grandmother, how would she would honor life? It's it's um it's a choice, I would believe. So it doesn't matter, if people choose to do what they want to do. I believe that itself could be sacred. It's just the way we look at life, rather than there's nothing sacred. It's the way we look at things which makes it sacred. It's the reverence, that connection which we offer. So to say this is sacred and this is not, I somehow don't agree with that. One of my teacher would say कि जीवन स्वयं ही पवित्र है. Life itself is sacred. Nothing makes it sacred. It's our own, our relationship with life, the way we revel. I think it kind of changes that relationship.
Yeah, that makes I'm able to relate to that. And what I'm hearing is, um, it doesn't matter whether we sit in one place or we go travel along, and everything has its own place, and it depends on each individual and what they are feeling called to. And it doesn't also, we don't have to put a label to it saying this is a pilgrimage and this is not. Yeah, that's what I'm hearing, and that's so beautifully put. Thank you. And I'm also, this what stood out for me is this thing about how every day we can how we see things is what is sacred, and it's not about what are the different things we're engaged with. Yeah, that really stood out for me. Thank you for that. Yeah, so in a way, are you also saying, I was, this quote for me was coming back again and again. What's happening outside of ourselves is a reflection of what's happening inside of us.
Yes.
And in that way, that's why the inner pilgrimage is more, or rather, paying attention to that is something that will clarify the outer pilgrimage also. Is that okay to say? Do you have some thoughts on that?
Yeah, no, I think you're right. I mean, I think they are all both interconnected and interdependent. I think I see the value of going out. Unless you go out, you do not appreciate just going within. Like, for example, Vinoba, he walked um, for 15 long years, and he traveled all over the breadth and the width of India and asking for Bhudan in the Bhudan movement. And yet, during his last days, he said, no, I mean, he took the Kshetra Sannyas, which means I am not going to walk anymore. He left, he started leaving, first traveling, then reading, and then writing, and then even his name, he said, I'm not even being called by Vinoba. He would just write Ram Hari in the end. And whenever people would call him Bhudan Wale Baba, he would get very, no, I'm not Bhudan Wale Baba. I do not want to be known by the Bhudan. I'm just this Baba, just this old person who just likes to read Gita. Like the Gita was one of his most important, cherished work. So what I'm trying to say is, the inner state definitely helps when we go out on a pilgrimage to connect with the outer, the pilgrimages, because you could go on a pilgrimage, but if you're not in a harmony, it could just become any other tourism, which is fine. I mean, not to put down the tourism, but the tourism is something when you're trying to go and grasp, take something, consume something. And you need that. Maybe you're working hard, you want to go just, relax in a place or go to a new place and consume the scenery or, places has to offer. But as a pilgrim, when you go there, pilgrimages are more when you're going to offer. Hello, can you? Yes.
Yeah, I can hear you. Yeah, you're saying that it's more to
So
offer.
as a pilgrim is when you are able to go to the offer, you're able to go to connect and not to consume. So it's a very different relationship, and that could only happen when you are open from within, but and you trust, the trust, the flow of life. So I think they're both interconnected, and yet I would say even if you don't have anything, just going on the idea of a pilgrimage, and that changes you, even if you want it, you don't want it. So I would say just trusting life, that that which has sent you to this place or the pilgrimage will teach you or will give you those insights what is meant to be given to you. So this I-ness that I'm going on a pilgrimage, I'm going to learn something, that starts to drop by, it starts dropping. And so I would say taking it less seriously and just cultivate that relationship with that sacred, which we talk, and the reverence, to see the things and to start trusting more. I think that is the most beautiful part of the pilgrimage, and then you're so vulnerable, you start trusting, okay, where we're going, what's happened next, and you're constantly in awe, basically.
Yeah, it sounds a bit scary, but yeah, but I definitely know what you mean. And yeah, you're asking us to just take it not take it so seriously, and just be vulnerable and like go on it and see what
Yes,
happens.
absolutely. And I think it's to go have a cultivate the heart of joy rather than, like I'm going on a spiritual pilgrimage and I want to have this, hard practices or this. Absolutely. If it's called to do that, do that. I mean, and if you see Navada pilgrimages, a few of my friends did that for the entire year. You walk more than 5,000 kilometers, really as a bhikshu. There's a friend of mine who is like, passed out from IIT, and the other sisters who travel, just two of them, doing the entire the pilgrimage of Narmada pilgrimage, and that was a powerful experience. You go there as a bhikshu, you have this very strict practices for yourself. So it's an act of purification. It's an act of like really reconnecting with your soul, which because there's so much distraction. So I think there's a value of that, So I would say starting with wherever we are, and then definitely cultivating those practices are important. Cultivating that connection is important. Making an effort to connect, to offer constantly. Okay, right? I'm here. What can I offer to this place, rather than what can I get from here? And I think that's when we start doing that. It's like building that muscle of, like that of generosity and interconnectedness. That changes, that transforms. That is the alchemy, the process.
Yeah, I remember in one of your videos, interviews, I saw that someone said, when rather than asking how can community take care of me, how can I take care of the community, and I'm automatically taken care of.
Yes.
When we're offering,
Yes.
then we don't have to worry about
Yes.
our thing, like we're taking care of it.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think even taking care, if it comes with this whole load of that, I have to do service, I have to do something, that itself is also another extreme. It's, one of my friend, elder brother, he would say, give, receive, and dance, and so basically you give and you receive, but after that, that giving and receiving is both, in another extreme. So what we need is this hands of friendship, where the giving and the receiving both dissolve. That the whole idea that I'm giving or I'm receiving, that leads to friendship. And I think that is more important, slowly to cultivate the heart of joy, to a heart of maitri, or that friendship, that I am one. Because if you give, then there's also separation. And receiving is also separation. So what really the intention of the pilgrimages is to from this separation, how do we move towards connection? Connection with yourself, with each other, and with the divine, and that is, I think, for me, is the major takeaway.
Yeah, this experiencing this interconnectedness.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah. Thank you. So it looks like there's a lot of walking involved
Yes.
in a pilgrimage.
Uh-huh.
So how does the movement, like walking and embodied presence, shape the way we learn in a pilgrimage?
So for me, I mean, if you read again about the sages, they have given a lot of importance to walking because one, walking connects you with the Mother Earth. And I think that is, very, very real embodied experience as compared, so for example, one of my teacher would say, if you have to plant seeds, there are three ways of doing that, right? I mean, many ways, but one of the three ways is you can go in a helicopter and you can take the seeds and you can throw the seeds, right? And it will just go and, like the seed bombs and, things like that. And you throw the seeds in different places. And some of the seeds might grow, some may not, the other places. Or else you can go on a tractor and you can plant the seeds to do that. Or else you can just go and dig with your hand and you can plant seeds one by one. And so there is a value of all three of together. In one, you're throwing it, in another one, you are big khilte hain, you're just like, what's the English word for that? Just like, and the third one, you're planting it with love, with connection. And I think that relationship is important. So when you walk, you have that connection with the Mother Earth. You're meeting people, your life slows down. You meet people along the way. So there's a lot of value in that sense, in the real embodied sense. You can, like for Vinoba, a lot of people would ask him, Vinoba ji, you walk 30 kilometers during his Buddha time, and you drink only milk and honey at that time. How do you survive? And he said, you're only looking at my external diet. What about my internal diet? I'm actually consuming, energy from the sun, from Mother Earth, from the Gita, which I'm reading every day, the 18 chapters of Gita. And that is actually, now science proves us, is our nourishes us more. And so I think walking has its tremendous value to do that. It slows us down, especially in the today's time with this whole fast technology where everything is in your fingertips. So it acts as a opposite. And so walking is, I would say, and it's interesting when you walk, your one feet is in the ground and another one is in the air. So it's like, one is rooted in knowing and another is in unknowing, so it's also very interesting way of looking at it. So I personally have found a lot of value in walking, and also in, going in whatever modes if possible to do that. But yes, the walking has a very spiritual embodied experience when you do that.
Yeah, you're saying it's symbolic of the bridge between the seen and the unseen.
Yes, it does. Yes.
Yeah, I was wondering if we can hear a story or a moment that you witnessed, a deep transformation in someone's journey on a pilgrimage. Um, Anything that comes to mind. It can be your own also.
I mean, there are many stories. I mean, one of the story is I might have often told, and maybe there's one time, one of my first pilgrimage where there were two sisters and two of my friends, and they were like sisters, and there was one male, so two men, two women. We were all walking this. We took our first pilgrimage from Ahmedabad to one of the elders had passed away, and we decided to go on a pilgrimage, honoring his presence and his his life. So we decided that we'll go without money. We'll walk from Ahmedabad, from the Gandhi ashram to his place where he was cremated. And that was around 150 kilometers or something. So it took us around 5 days to go there. And on the and we were all pumped up, we are going on a pilgrimage without money. And it just, there's a sense of, like we're doing something very sacred and in a very subtle way, superiority, like this is a hard thing to do. And you like that, oh, I'm traveling without phone, without money. And here we go, at 5 o'clock in the morning. And by 9 o'clock, we reached Gandhinagar. And when we reached there, we were getting hungry. And then this is our first experience. And I just thought, let me go and ask for some food. So this one lari wala, like this one guy, and was just like vada pav and bread, and he was making something. He had just opened, and so all my three friends, they were resting at one place. So I went there, and I asked him, brother, we are in such a journey, and without money, and giving more emphasis, oh, without money, we are traveling, and can we have some, nashto or some bread? And he looked down upon me, like the person, he just scanned me, and then he didn't say anything. And then he was keep making his bread. Maybe he had just opened up 10 minutes back, and he kept making his bread and the other thing. And then 2-3 other customers came. So he gave them the food first, right? And absolutely silence. And And here I am standing right there, and I was hoping he would give me, this first priority, or he would ask me, oh, really? Or just some kind of enthusiasm, nothing. And those maybe 5 minutes must have felt like an hour. And I'm just standing there in embarrassment, and it suddenly felt very insulting because he was just not even looking at me, not even acknowledging the whole presence. And after it, maybe like 10 minutes, which seemed like, I was just about to leave from there, he looked without made something like a sandwich or something, and without looking at me, he gave me like this, just okay, now go. And I came back very embarrassed, and my first impulse was to just throw it in the dustbin. This whole ego was hurt, the pride was hurt, and I came back, but I just saw, okay, my the two friends, and at least offer them. So I gave them, but I just couldn't even eat a single bite from that. And then we reflected, all four of us, what happened. And then it reminded me of one of my teachers who used to say that, when we go there, we establish relationship. And did I just ask, assuming that I was entitled to get that just because I'm on a pilgrimage, or what was my contribution? And from that moment, we just thought, instead of just going and asking, how can we create a cultivation relationship first? So, when Satish ji, who was the world pilgrim, he had left, and he had gone to meet Vinoba, and Vinoba had told him, do not carry money. And when he had traveled all over the world, and he had advised him to keep three things, and to keep, for the hand, to keep a broom. And one of my teachers actually told me that. He said, when you travel, you carry a broom with you. So wherever you go, at least you can clean the place. You can contribute by making the place more beautiful than it was before. Second, you carry a good book, like a sacred text. So you're purifying your mind. So you're purifying your body, you're purifying your mind. And the third, you carry like a musical instrument, like something like to do kirtan, or to sing, or to bhakti. So just for your soul, for your heart. So mind, body, and soul, or mind, body, and heart, you connect with that. And from that, moment, it kind of dawned, whenever we go, we connect with the people, we understand, and then we come with a more space of sense of humility, and not sense of entitlement, just because I'm on a pilgrimage, that life should be nice to me, and I should get whatever I want to do that. So that impression was very, very early on, was very powerful for me, to see and not to judge the other person. And the judgment drops. When we love when we judge people, we cannot love them. It becomes a barrier. So how do we go with a sense of not expecting anything? And then whatever you get, it becomes a prasad, it becomes a joy. But if even the entire, even the results, this is how I'm going to, or even the place, this is where I'm going, it all has to be dropped. Your I-ness has to drop, your activity, your, everything. And then that's when something magical happens.
Yeah, that's lovely. Thank you. I understand what you were saying about, it's more about what we're offering now, more clearly from the story. I'm able to,
And to give things is easy, Lakshmi. I mean, the most easiest thing is to give money. And very easy. Trust me. I think that's what I've learned, to give things. Okay, I have like two shirts. Okay, one shirt I'm not wearing. Okay, it's easy to give. Oh, I don't like this. So let me give that, or give money. Have some. A beggar is there, and you're going in a car, let's say, for example, and somebody knocks on a door, and then they also, oh, Papa, please give, and then you give like 5 rupees, 2 rupees, 1, whatever. It's very easy, because then you make the problem go away. But here's the challenge. Can you look him into the eye? Can you have conversation with him? Can you give him that presence of not giving anything, of not getting rid of anything? And in that moment, something happens. In that moment, that separation, that God dissolves, even for a fraction of a moment. And giving and non-giving doesn't really matter, And that's giving your presence. I think that honest and authentic presence is the most difficult, and I think most needed in today's time.
Yeah, so you're saying there's a difference between giving away something that we don't need, getting rid of something that we don't need, and really offering, giving with the presence is very, very different.
Very.
And it's not easy.
It's easy, yeah. And you have to give whatever you can. Like I remember one of my messages, I went to Assisi in Italy, where Saint Francis of Assisi was there. And one of the messages I was getting was give whatever you can. It's a blessing to give. You're blessed that you can give, don't hold back. That so it's I mean, there are thousands of stories. I mean, I can go on and on, but I think so giving, to be able to give, I think, is a blessing in itself. To be able to be in a place where you can offer something, I think you are more blessed. So how do we share our blessings?
Yeah, thank you for that. So the next bunch of questions is like a cluster of questions, which essentially I'm asking about why it's important to reclaim the sacred in education. Or another way to ask that question would be how, and after maybe we address the why, then we can also talk about how to learn to reconnect with the sacred. Because pilgrimages are often a bridge between the seen and the unseen, intuition and experiences. How do we really make this process tangible for those who have lost touch with the subtle realms,
Yeah.
or aren't even aware of it, or like don't believe in it? Did the question make sense?
No, I hear you, and I think it's difficult, and I think it's getting more and more difficult because with the whole AI and technology, which is kind of coming in, and which is everything is demanding our attention in today's time, and be it whatever technology or everything becomes very urgent, and let me share something I just read yesterday, and it struck me hard. And I was reading this book, Man's Search for Meaning by Viktor Frankl, a very famous book he spoke about logotherapy and the man's search for meaning. And in it, he said that the moment human beings, I mean, in terms of science, we became from animals to, that we started developing towards the, human beings. Or so one of the fundamental thing which we lost was that trust. And how he explains, when we were animals, we trusted. Okay, we didn't think too much. We ate. When we were hungry, we would eat. We trusted in life, in some sense. In our we call it ignorance, but he trusted the nature, the flow of life, and had. But the moment we got fire, or we were able to we developed the mind. Now we had to make choices. And what that led to was that making of these choices, we started asking questions about who am I? Why am I doing this? So all these questions, some of them came out of the boredom, some of them. So it was very interesting. This whole search for meaning was, it takes away from that, our trust from life itself. We are searching for something else and not seeing this unseen, which we are part of, and the sacred. And how do we cultivate that connection more? So in terms of your question about how do we connect more with the unseen, with the sacred, and especially is to really become a child again. First is to remove these distractions. I think, and it's not easy, and I don't think I can practice it completely. And all of us, myself included, we just get called by such distractions all the time from all these different places. So how do we slow down, and how do we see the beauty of the invisible? I've seen that most of my biggest teachers have been the everyday people who have met. Like I'll share another story in which might help you understand this, what I'm trying to say. So when I first went to the Gandhi ashram, I met one of the elders who were just sitting over there. One of the elders who was just maybe like just a simple, in the management, just doing not a big position or something like that. It's a very simple old man. And he asked him, Kaka, do you wonder, what's your goal in life? What have you ever dreamt? What is your highest dream? Just asking him. And he looked at me, this 80-year-old Dada who has given up. By the way, later I realized like how he was a school teacher and he left, dedicated his entire life for service in a very, and completely invisible. So he told me, but I would like to be, my intention or my aspiration is to be like a broom, to be like a jhadu. I said, what do you mean to be like a jhadu? I said, yeah, like to see like how jhadu, it never says, I want to change the world. It's never making an effort to go out and do the safari. It's just a tool, right? And somebody might pick it up and do the safari, And then you can put it back, you can hide it behind the door, put it under the bed. You can do a lot of those, you don't want to see it, you see it as a dirty. And but the jhadu dirties itself again and again to do the safai outside. And it's so humble that the jhadu is never given the credit, right? It's always the person who is doing the jhadu. This is my prayer to the God is to make me like that jhadu, to make me like that chitra or that, like that rug, which you use it till the end, till it just becomes like, like a small pieces, you use it. So how do we become that instrument of the divine? And that is to become the invisible completely. So this whole idea to be visible, it comes from the space of ego, and that's what creates separation. So I think to reconnect is the effort has to become the invisible, as if to walk the earth as if we have never walked. We have never made it polluted, like how the bird leaves goes in the sky without making a trace. So the first aspiration should be that, how I can make less footprints in that sense. To see everyone around you as a teacher. It could be things, it could not to see anything separate, think, okay, this is rich or poor, or this is, so I think we see things as they are, not to say to, but that division, I think the heart really connects with each other. It might sound very rosy in that sense, but I think the cultivation of the heart is important, the polishing of the heart. And that's in many traditions has been given, either in the Bhakti tradition, in the Sufis, or in the, everybody, if they really see what they were trying to do was to polish their heart. And in that polishing their heart, then we see the reflection of the other in your own heart. And that's when the real education happens. It doesn't happen only with the mind of understanding, but it happens with the heart when all the barriers drop. So what I'm trying to say is if you really want to be educated, the education, it's not, we always see it from the mind when we are able to understand. But when the mind drops and the heart opens or blossoms, that's when the real the wisdom comes very naturally. And it's not this or that again, it's this and this. As we are trying to understand, we also suspend the mind and says, okay, maybe I don't understand. I don't agree with you. But I know maybe, okay, maybe I'm willing to stand here. I'm willing not to just make you go away and say, okay, where that leads to us. So the power of heart, the power of zikr, the simran is important.
So one question that's emerging for me is, like often a lot of people struggle with a sense of worthiness.
Yes.
And I'm wondering, in this whole idea of dropping the ego or dissolving it and being interconnected and not separating yourself from the other, what is the how does worthiness then come about, or can you share like how it happens, or what is the role of worthiness and ego itself if it is meant to be dissolved as such? Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
I'll not go too much because slowly I'm realizing it's becoming more of a sermon, and I can only speak from my experience, and doesn't necessarily means right and wrong. And so for me, how it has been, I can share that, and that might. So because I would like to refrain from this is the way or this is the way. I mean, this has been the way for me, and that doesn't necessarily mean that it is the right way. Yes, worthiness, I mean, I still struggle with it. I mean, at this age, I mean, after doing, so-called some meaningful work or some, getting validation from outside, my father still stammers, when somebody asks him, what does your son do? He still finds it loss of words to really say what I do, So I think deep down, we always crave for this worthiness from our parents, that is the first. Then second, from our family and the society and other things. And for that, we look for validation. That's where the ego comes in, because once we get validation from outside, we get validation from it. So it's all interconnected, right? So I think that will never go. I mean, it's in the life. Even trying to be trying to be egoless is also an ego in some sense, right? Trying to be invisible, or that, okay, that is also, I think that I-ness, I personally feel it will always be part of us. That's what makes us. Is who we are. And what we can change is that the relationship with that I, how it affects us. So one of my other teacher would say, Madhu, anything that disturbs you more than 3 minutes, it's your problem. It's not outside. No matter what it is. If somebody said something happened, and if it's disturbing you more than 3 minutes, so it's yours. So that is the one clear tool she gave, that to cultivate that, to for that worthiness or for the I, how to reconnect. So once you start looking inside, okay, why did that happen? Why did I react that way? Why is it hurting me so much? Why am I feeling unworthy? What is it part of me? What is my need? And then once you understand that, then maybe, okay, you might say, okay, so yes, I need it, and it's just fine. You're not saying I should not need it, or I should not have that ego. But just to see that, okay, I need that, or it is there, which is affecting me. I think that helps to dissolve those knots. So I would say, yes, I mean, to going beyond ego, I don't think anybody has done that. It's no matter how much you do, there's always a sense of I till we die, till we leave this body. And the journey is always about the connection, that relationship with the I, how it becomes, less and less difficult, or less and less, painful for us.
Yeah, that's very well put. Thank you. So I have two more questions.
Yes.
One is about how to organize one's own pilgrimage, and the other one is about like 5 tips to start your own Sacredversity. I feel like we can address the pilgrimage one first. Does that
Okay.
make sense?
Sure.
And I want to add a little bit of this. A lot of people feel very alienated from institutionalized religion, right? How can an individual design a pilgrimage route that resonates with their spiritual or personal journey, especially when traditional paths are not accessible for many different reasons? How can we organize our own pilgrimage?
I mean, my first response would be just go on. I mean, just we do swimming by just doing swimming. So pilgrimages are something which we start wherever we are. There's no right and wrong way of doing it. First, the intention itself, that okay, I want to establish a relationship. That's, I think, for me, is one intention strong enough to do that. So anything could be a pilgrimage. Let's see, for me, like going to my ancestors' place, or going to my old school, or going to meet my old teachers, or somebody did, like, to go and meeting the Facebook friends. First you decide, okay, how many people are there on the Facebook who have my same name as me, and he went on meeting people around that. So who knows, I mean, what is right and wrong? People, you design your own pilgrimage depending on what you're curious about, and what helps you establish that connection. So I think that is the first fundamental intention. So setting up an intention is very important. Second, the path is sometimes it's okay, it will unfold. Setting few practices for yourself, and that let not other people define it for you. It could be defined by yourself. Okay, in this pilgrimage, maybe I'm going to write daily, or I'm going to walk this much, or certain practices. Okay, I'm personal practices which helps you connect with yourself. So it makes it more embodied in that sense. So practices, setting intention, practices. Third is kind of creating some, because it's difficult. So I think for me, I have realized giving an end point. Okay, like for example, like at least I would like to walk this many days or 5 days. So when if it becomes difficult on the second day, you still have those 3 days, or you have that place to reach out to. So in the beginning, I think it's important to have an end goal, or where we are going to do that. How we go, which path we take, it might be difficult. Maybe after walking, you might think that after second day, like there was Tukaram, he was going on a pilgrimage, and then with this whole water, to Rameshwaram to put water on the Shiva, and in the middle he saw a donkey who was dying of the thirst, and he gave all his water to him. So and his pilgrimage ended over there itself. So I think it doesn't really matter, but with that intention, with those practices, with that end goal, and that the spirit of connection, I think that's whenever in doubt, love, and more doubt comes, love some more, never hold back. Is basically, how can I love more? Whenever there's challenges, okay, how can I respond with love? I think that is at least a question which we can hold. How we can do is it's a whole different thing. Sometimes we can, sometimes we can't, but to hold that. But I would say just start doing what just brings joy to you. It doesn't really matter where. It could be Las Vegas. Okay, I'm going to go to all the casinos, and to check out. But then you start shifting. When I was in US, I made a film on a stripper on in San Francisco. That was such a spiritual experience for me. And then after that, I made a film on one of the nude models, who poses nude for the art students. And the model later on discovered she was a disciple of Shivananda, and for her this nudity was in a very exploration of her, who she was. So what I'm saying is it doesn't really matter. It just has to really come from deep within, that with a very basic need of connection with yourself, with each other, and with the divine. And when I say divine, is the nature, it's the environment, and so not in terms of religious any god or anything. And no path is a wrong path. We think we are walking the path, but the path is walking you as you go on that. Somebody else is making you walk that. It's not the I. We think that we are taking a pilgrimage, but it's the years, our ancestors, which is making us walk this path.
Yeah, I actually have a follow-up question for this. So there's this invitation to surrender, which you're talking about at some level. This trusting of the unknown and embracing discomfort, because it is uncomfortable. Like we have to step out of our comfort zone.
Yes.
So what practices, you did speak about having an end goal, and having a practice that we do on the pilgrimage. So what practices help people navigate fear and doubt along this way?
I mean, there's one quote which kept inspiring me was jump and the net would appear. And when you jump, the net would appear. And there was another beautiful quote which I learned from when I was working in the hospice in America with one of the patients who were, in the last stages of their life. And this one patient, he wrote on a paper for me and he said, when we have come to the end of all the light we know and about to step in the darkness unknown, and it could be the pilgrimages, it could be the life, when we can't see any more light, when we have come to the end of all the light we know and about to step in the darkness unknown, faith is knowing that only either of two things can happen. That there'll be something solid to stand on, or you'll be taught how to fly. So I think that quote kind of gave me that there are only two possibilities. That there'll be something that you'll be taken care by the larger universe, by the God, or by the life itself, or in that struggle or in that pain, we will learn how to fly. And no matter how it sounds scary, and it does, but if you look back at life, we have always been taken care. The very fact that we're having this conversation, we are alive, that we have survived, and we have survived many things. And the scars are beautiful. I believe the scars are nice. But when the daag achhe hain, वैसे ही I think that the scars which we get on our life, on our way, I think we need to show them more, not hide them, flaunt them more. Scars.
Yeah, as practices, you also mentioned something about offering and also having a book, like for bhakti, right?
Yes. So practices,
Sorry.
Lakshmi, I think practices. So I think what I have learned is it cannot happen overnight. It's the lifelong of practices. I'm working on the whole series of stories of the last days of mystics and saints, how they prepare for the death. So be it Buddha or Vinoba or Sufi saints. And one thing which common came out was that it just the last moment shows how you lived your life. So, for example, Ramana also had a cancer. Ramakrishna, full of bhakti. He had a throat cancer and he died in such pain and agony. He couldn't even say the word ma, which he was like all his life. Couldn't even sing, Vinoba, when he left his body, he was leaving his body slowly. He left eating and drinking, and it's almost like a santhara, So Kasturba, when she was dying, she was very painful, for her. So like all these mortal bodies, but if the pain was there, but the suffering was optional. So what they were saying is pain is inevitable, suffering is optional. Sri Aurobindo, I mean, he had a, also like a very disease. So all the people start asking him, Ramakrishna, why don't you cure yourself? Ask mother, to cure you. I said, he would not understand. So same with the pilgrimage, it can only happen the way we live life. It's the everyday choices. It's the everyday moment-to-moment choices. How I respond to life right now, to the people around me. And that will define when we go out. So it's not like one day we just go out on a pilgrimage. So I think that cultivating those daily habits or preparing for that, it helps us, then it becomes easier as we take the pilgrimage.
Yes, it helps to have a practice, but practices are something that we cultivate
Yes.
through our daily life also.
And I think what you said, to see, I think start seeing itself, I think is such a beautiful, what I think in the beginning of the talk you said, to see the unseen, and I think in our daily lives, how do we see the unseen? All the people who are making a life more beautiful, all the people who are making a life more, even like when we're going out, somebody in the lift, man, somebody sitting on a lift, just that simple one acknowledgement. What's your name? Just simple thing. What's your name? Could just break that. It could just, from the unseen, he felt seen. Acha, how was the day? Kitne bacche hai? How many children? So what's happening is that's just one simple interaction. It just changes the whole energy, of you, of him, and on the field surrounding, the sacredness, the invisible which is surrounding us. And that prepares us because we are seeking that connection. And then you, yeah.
Sorry.
No, that's it. And it's not, and slowly in the beginning, it might be an effort, but then slowly it becomes an, effortless. And then maybe one day it doesn't say hi, it doesn't really matter, it's not like that, oh, every time you have to say it. Maybe there are days when you're not feeling well, you don't want to do that, you want to be in silence. So it's not like you should do it. The should drops basically. And that's important, to drop the should, to drop, I have to be nice, I have to be kind, I have to be generous, I have to be, so I have to be, it drops, and then who you are, it comes very naturally,
Yeah, I like to say that the only way discipline will work is if it's rooted in pleasure. That's another extreme, but generally what I'm hearing is the should of the practice needs to drop, and just doing the practices and seeing how over some time it's shifting things for us, and then choosing to do more of that. And if it doesn't work, it doesn't work also.
But yet in the beginning, we have to do it also, because it's like muscles.
Yeah.
So the inertia comes in. Oh, I don't want to do it. I want to do it. हमारे मन का, बोलते कि मन से, तो my teacher would say, मन से ऊपर उठो, get above the mind. Oh, I don't feel like doing it. I don't want to do it. Oh my, so that is all from the mind oriented, right? So it says, how do we rise above the mind? Because mind is also tricky. Mind is never the same space. It keeps changing. Yeah. So those habits, those practices has to be over time. We do it till it becomes effortless.
Yeah, because we have a evolutionary predisposition to be in that survival mode. Then we have to cultivate practices to thrive, not just survive.
Yeah. And that's the real education, no? Like, be selfish, be generous. So it's not like you being, so if you're really selfish, you'll be generous, because you realize by being generous how much it's helping you in your own evolution. That's the real education, and that the understanding what we currently are told by all these, the current channels are that, we need to survive, we need to, hold on. But we realize the more we hold on, the more it will suffocate us. The more alienated we feel. In our own eco-versities, we have seen eco and how our strength has been, connection with each other.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. And so the last question that I wanted to ask you is, if someone were to start their own Sacredversities, like the Pilgrimversities, can you give 5 tips to do that?
First, listen to your heart. What makes you happy? I think joy, follow your bliss. like Joseph Campbell would say, the bliss. I mean, it doesn't matter what. I see life itself as sacred. And first is coming really inside out. What is sacred to me? And it could be anything, whatever issues you're working with, or so you define sacred for yourself, which you look in reverence, which helps you connect you with yourself and with each other and with nature and with the divine, whatever name you want to call that. So I think first coming from a space of joy, that every time you want to do it, you should feel happy about it. You should not feel it. So I think that space of coming from joy or bliss is, I think, one of the most fundamental thing. Second is you define that sacredness. Then third, create practices, because the mind is very strong. Mind is like monkey. It will help you go back into your inertia. So how do you break that inertia? So cultivating certain practices is again very important. So and you define your own practices, but stick with them. And then I think meet people. Like what I think this podcast which you're doing is, when you like somebody asked Buddha how important in the path of enlightenment is noble friends, and he would say more than 90%. So build your own community. Find your people who are as crazy. Believe paglo ka panth hum kehte hain na, ki paglo ki duniya banaye. Make a group of crazy ones, and meet people, talk to them, hear their stories, be a good listener to the life, and listener to each other. And I think that gives us fuel for every day. And then last, trust that the mind, the idea which is coming to you is just not coming only from you. There are many whispers, from the ancestors or your friends, and the life itself is whispering. The dream, your dream is not the dream. The dream is dreaming you. So there's something else which wants you to manifest that. And once you listen to that, and that will give you all the resources, will give you all these things. So I want to do this, will slowly will carries a lot of weight. So believe that be a dreamer of the dream, be the vehicle of a dream, I would say, that what the dream which wants to manifest. Because if you don't answer that, it will go to other. So it's your responsibility in a way to yourself to answer to that calling, to share that story, to share what has been nagging you slowly, and so in the beginning it'll be very loud, but slowly then it becomes softer and softer and softer. And then it makes us hard, it makes our heart, close our heart. And that's a very dangerous space.
Sorry, can you say that again? The thing about in the beginning it's softer, and what becomes hard?
So basically, when the dream or the calling of that whatever Sacredversity you want to start or you want to do or in the life, the first your heart keeps telling you, actually you have to do this, you have to do this in the beginning, and he says, yeah, I have to do it. I just have to finish this first, and I'll do it. We keep postponing that, and it's like the voice of the soul, right? And then slowly it becomes softer and softer. And then maybe it will come, first it will come daily, then it will come once in a week, once in a month, and maybe once in a year, you'll see somebody else doing it. Oh, I also want to do that, but then it has gone, that voice. And then slowly our heart, which was so pumped up with enthusiasm, it starts closing and closing and closing. And then it stops believing in miracles, it stops believing in that interconnection, it stops believing in that flow, and then become too reasonable. And I would say, stop being reasonable, drop the reason, and trust that we are in the flow of this whole journey of many millions of years. Just like how diseases they carry on from one body to another body. So same as the dreams. So it's the dreams of the forefathers, our ancestors, which we are carrying right now in just different ways. And now we have to share it forward with our children.
Yeah, we're just doing like one part of the relay, or like the
Yes, exactly,
yeah, it's not just ours to start and finish.
Yes.
That was really insightful and quite lovely talking to you today. Thank you so much for sharing your stories, your wisdom that you've learned, and your own also. Would you like to say any last thoughts, or like anything that's present for you, just like a check-in of what you're present to, like that?
I mean, same again from the film which was coming is let it go, let it flow, life knows, you know. But I think what's present to me right now is love what is, yeah, love what is, and that, yeah, I think loving what is. I mean, you can find it different ways. I don't want to explain it too much, but yeah, this moment, can I be present? Can I love whatever is emerging for me? And can I see the sacred in that? Can I create that cultivation that of relationship in this moment? You know, there was a time when I was doing a lot of pilgrimages, and there was a time when I became a householder again, and then I would struggle a lot. And then when that dropped, that can I love what is, you know, it shifted for me, it changed for me. So I think how do we? That's what I'm learning right now. Love what is.
Yeah, that's a very big takeaway for me as well, especially with the story of your something about the mother, someone who, yeah, was doing everyday things, but also saw the sacred in it.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a very big, humbling one that I'm taking away from this as well.
Yeah, I mean, depends. I mean, if it's, again, it's not to say that work. So basically, my point was not to see this work or that work. I mean, you know, big or small. Our relationship with that work is what defines us. What makes us. So loving what is, love what is,
Now, what is?
love what is.
Yeah, thank you so much for your time and
Thank you,
for your
Lakshmi.
presence.
Thank you so much to Kalashri as well, and all the your entire team. And thank you for giving me the opportunity to reflect. I think you know, because these things come out when these are heartfelt conversations like this. And so thank you really. And yeah, just hope we can keep gathering, keep sharing more stories, and find more stories from, you know, there's such beautiful stories all around us, and be like a honeybee and sharing that and bringing that to life.
Yes, I look forward to the next time we gather and share more stories.
Absolutely. Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you.